Jennifer from Fiberflux. In this video, I'm going to show you how to crochet this gorgeous snow cone wrap. This is a really fun and super easy wrap that you can do with some self-striping yarn. You could really do this with solid yarn or some other variegated yarns, but I did this fun, bright self-striping yarn. And then we're going to do some really basic double crochet stitches, but we're going to add some back post double crochet stitches in there too to give us these really unique ridges in our work, just to add a little bit of texture. And you can see how the yarn colors kind of show through on each stripe of the stripe before it. So it's a kind of really fun visual piece that shows off your self-striping yarn really well. Now the back has a different look and you can wear it either way, really. Now let me just give you some dimensions before we jump in. From the bottom point, now we're going to start, actually our shawl, if we flip it over, we're going to be working from the middle of the center and work our way out in rows. So let me just flip it back around for sizing. So if you start at the bottom point here and go straight up, the one I have here, using the yarn that we'll be talking about, is 25 inches. From the bottom point straight up to one of the sides here is about 41 inches. And then if we look at the top edge of our wrap, all the way across this top edge is 54 inches. Now, you can change the dimensions of yours simply by working more or less rows of the pattern. It's pretty flexible. This is just a nice little wrap for spring and summer and into fall too, if you know, you wanted to wear it. But it does show off the colors really beautifully, and it's very simple. We're just going to be using 2 yarn cakes, which we'll talk about next. So let's get started. For this project, you'll need a pair of scissors, a tapestry needle. A tape measure is super helpful to get the size that you want, especially if you're going to be customizing it and changing the size. We're going to be using a 6.5 millimeter K crochet hook. This is my Furls Odyssey in the blue. I can put the link down below if you'd like to get one for yourself. For our yarn, we're going to be using 2 cakes of Mandala Ombre by Lion Brand. This is bright and soft. I love the self-striping effect that we're going to get for our shawl. You could easily use a different self-striping or variegated yarn, and solids will work just as nice too. This color that I'm using though is called Tranquil. It does come in dye lots, so make sure that you match your dye lots if you're using 2 cakes like I am. Now each cake of this is 344 yards. So because we're using 2 cakes, that's a total of 688 yards total. And then this, I also wanted to point out as a side note, this yarn recommends an I 5.5 millimeter crochet hook, but we're going up 2 sizes to the K 6.5 millimeter crochet hook. The reason I did that is because we're going to be using post stitches, and sometimes they can scrunch a little, and I wanted to really give this shawl a lot of drape. If you need to substitute yarn, look for a medium 4 on the yarn weight scale. You can find that little yarn ball picture with the number in it has a 4, so look for a medium 4 weight. And this one actually recommends an I 5.5 millimeter crochet hook. And if you remember, we're using the K 6.5 millimeter. I'm going up 2 hook sizes for this project because I want our shawl to have some lovely drape, okay? So if you look for the 4 medium on the yarn weight scale, you'll be just fine. If you need to see a little bit of it first before you commit to the whole project, try working up a little swatch or the first few rows of this pattern, and you can really get a sense of how your yarn and hook kind of behaves together and if it has the drape that you want or the look that you want. You don't want it to be too tight and stiff because you want to be able to wrap it around yourself, but at the same time you don't want it to be too loose and your stitches to look kind of messy either. So a nice balance in the middle is great. So the 6.5 millimeter K crochet hook with the medium 4 weight yarn. And again, this is called Tranquil, and I'm using 688 yards of this total. Okay, so let's get started. We are going to create a ring and work as if we're working in the round, but actually this shawl will be crocheted flat and we're going to be turning with each row. But we do want to start with a ring for that first round. So what we want to do to get started is wrap the yarn around our fingers to make a loop, bring the yarn behind that loop, reach in with your hook, bring up the loop, and tighten. So now what we're going to do is chain 4. To make a chain, wrap the yarn around the hook, bring it through the loop. That's 1, 2, 3, and 4. Then what we're going to do is join to create a ring in that farthest chain from our hook. So that first chain that we made, we're going to insert the hook into that farthest chain from our hook, bring up a loop, Now we have 2 loops on our hook. We're going to bring that loop through the loop that's already on the hook, and then we're just going to open up the ring a little bit so we can work our stitches into it. And we're also going to hold this tail along the edge as we work, and that will weave it in as we go along. So what we want to do for row 1 is chain 3, 1, 2, 3. Now as a side note, this chain 3 is going to count as one of our double crochets. Then what we're going to do is work 2 double crochets into the center of the ring. So to make a double crochet, wrap the yarn around the hook, insert it into the center of that ring, and bring up a loop. 3 loops are on the hook. Wrap yarn around hook, bring it through the first 2 loops. Wrap yarn around hook, bring it through the last 2 loops, and that's the double crochet. We're going to work 2 of them though, so work 1 more into the center of the ring. And then we're going to chain 2, 1, 2, and then we're going to work 3 double crochets now into the center of the ring. So 1 double crochet, 2 double crochet, and 3 double crochet. And row 1 is complete. You can see we have the very beginnings of our triangle point. It's not going to look like much yet, but it will soon. So let's move on to row 2. For row 2, we're going to chain 3 once again. 1, 2, 3. Again, this counts as a double crochet. We're going to turn our work. When this is really small and kind of not really an actual triangle shape yet, you can use this tail, and as long as it's pointing to you, towards you, that's the bottom of our piece, okay? So once again, that chain 3 counts as one of our double crochets. Now we're going to go to the base of that chain we just made, and at the bottom there will be a loop. You can see it right there at the bottom. And what we're going to do is we're going to work 2 double crochets right at the base of that chain. So double crochet and double crochet. Then we're going to start to work up the side of our triangle, and we're going to work a double crochet in each of the next 2 stitches. So you can see 2 stitches here. We're going to work a double crochet in that first stitch that you see, and then work a double crochet into the next stitch that you see. Okay? And now we're at the point of the triangle, that chain 2 space. Remember that chain 2 that we did? It created a much bigger space. So in that chain 2 space, we're going to work our corner, or our point of our triangle. So what we want to do for that is go 2 double crochet, 1 and 2, chain 2, and then in that same space, 2 more double crochet, 1 and 2. And my little yarn ball is following me around. And then we're going to, down the other side of our triangle, we're going to work a double crochet in each of the next 2 spaces. So in that, stitches, excuse me. So in that next stitch, work a double crochet. And then the stitch after that, work a double crochet. Okay, and then to finish our row, what we're going to do is work a 3 double crochets in the turning chain space. So remember we did our chain 3 and we turned? That created a space at the end. So you can see the chain here, the turning chain, and then there's like a space in between your project and that turning chain. So in that turning chain space, work 3 double crochet. So 1, 2, and 3. All right, row 2 is complete, and you can see it's starting to look more and more like our triangle shape we're after. Okay, let's move on to row 3. For row 3, once again, we're going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3, and we're going to turn our work. Again, if you're not sure, just look for that tail. Make sure it's pointing towards you. And what we're going to do for this one is in that first stitch, see at the base of our chain here that we just did, that little loop at the bottom, we're going to work 2 double crochets into that stitch. So 1 and 2. Now for this row, we're going to add some texture to our shawl and give that those nice little ridges that you saw at the beginning of the video. So what we're going to do in that next stitch, so that post that you see, we're going to work a back post double crochet in each stitch across till we get to that corner again and work that corner. Okay, so if you're not familiar with the back post double crochet, how you do that is wrap the yarn around the hook, and then instead of going into the stitch, what we're going to do is kind of isolate that post. So sometimes when you're new at this, you might want to kind of use your thumbs and kind of isolate it a little bit so you can see it better. And then what we're going to do is, remember we wrapped yarn around hook. You're going to take your hook and you're going to go behind your work and come through, go over top of that post that we were talking about and back down. Now you're going to wrap the yarn around the hook, bring it back through the way you came. You'll now have 3 loops on the hook. Wrap yarn around hook, bring it through the first 2 loops. Wrap yarn around hook, bring it through the last 2 loops. And that's the back post double crochet stitch. And you can see we've created this nice little ridge in our work. Okay, so we're just going to do this all the way across. Work a back post double crochet in each stitch across. So just as a refresher, wrap yarn around hook, coming from the back, go over top of that post and bring up or wrap yarn around hook, bring it back through the way you came, bring that loop up. You'll have 3 loops on the hook, yarn around hook, bring it through the first 2 loops, yarn around hook, bring it through the last 2 loops. Okay, and we're just going to do this all the way up the side here. Now, as your triangle grows, you'll have more side stitches. Each time you work a row, you'll have more and more and more side stitches as your shawl grows. Okay, and now I'm just working it into that last one here. And you can see we have some nice texture forming here. All right, we're at that topmost point of our triangle, and what we're going to do is the same thing we did in the previous row. You always work these corners the same way. So we'll do 2 double crochet, just regular double crochets this time. So 2 double crochet, chain 2, and then 2 more double crochets, all in that same chain 2 space from the previous row. Just like that. Now we're going to go back down the side of our triangle. So locate that first post, and we're going to work a back post double crochet, okay? So wrap the yarn around the hook, come in from the back, go over top of that post and back down. Wrap yarn around hook, bring it back through the way you came. Wrap yarn around hook, bring it through the first 2 loops. Wrap yarn around hook, bring it through the last 2 loops. And we're just going to do the same thing all the way down the next side of our triangle. Okay, so back post double crochet all the way down. Just like that. Back post double crochet, back post double crochet all the way down. And this just gives it a nice little extra texture. Okay, so here we are at our last stitch. Work that back post double crochet in there. And now, see, we're at the turning chain again. So remember, in that turning chain space, work 3 double crochet. So 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so row 3 is complete and it looks great. It's starting to really look nice now. Okay, let's work on our last row that we're going to learn. So what we want to do for row 4, let me just get my yarn out of the way here, is once again, we're going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3, and turn. Again, this chain 3 counts as a double crochet once again. So in that first stitch, that loop at the very base of that chain you just made, work 2 double crochet. 1 and 2. Just like that. And now for row 4, all we're going to do is work a regular double crochet in each stitch all the way till we get to that corner of that point of our triangle. Okay? So in the next stitch, work a double crochet. Next stitch, double crochet all the way across. Okay, all the way down. And if you notice, each time we've done a row of this so far, you may have noticed we have more side stitches each time. So as your piece grows, you'll be working more side stitches. The corners, this point here that we're about to do, those will be worked the same way. And you'll start and end each row the same way, but you'll just be adding more and more side stitches with each row worked, okay? So just keep on going until you kind of run out of stitches and you're at the corner, just like that. All right, now we're at that corner, that triangle point or that chain 2 space, whatever you'd like to call it. And in that chain 2 space, we're gonna work 2 double crochet, 1 and 2, chain 2, and 2 double crochet, all in that same chain 2 space, okay? Now we're gonna come back down the side of our triangle once again. So in that first stitch you come to, work a double crochet, and then a double crochet in each stitch across, okay? Very easy. We're just adding a little bit of texture every other row to get some really nice looking ridges through our work. Just give it a little bit of interest. Now we're doing a self-striping yarn, so we don't want it to compete too much, but this is just enough texture for this. Okay, I'm continuing to work my double crochets down the side of the triangle. Just like that. And now I'm at the last stitch. And now in the turning chain space, once again, like we've been doing before all along, work 3 double crochets right into that turning chain space. So 1, 2, and 3, okay? So what you're gonna do for the rest of your shawl, I'm gonna remove my hook so you can see it a little bit better. And I like to, when I've done a few rows here and there, I like to just kind of straighten everything out. But let's flip this over because you can really see our texture starting to develop, and you can really see how the point is really interesting and it has its own texture as well. So what you're going to do for the rest of your shawl, as you work through all these colors of your cake and move through all these colors, what you're going to do is just keep repeating rows 3 and 4, 3 and 4, 3 and 4 over and over and over again until your shawl is as large as you would like it to be. Now often when I make these projects for the Fiberflux community and these videos, I'll make multiple pieces. So that's something that kind of happens behind the scenes, and I usually make a few. So I've already started another one because I wanted to show you. This one started with this pretty gold color, but you can see as we work the rows how the colors are going to play out. And sometimes when we do a back post double crochet on a, when the color is transitioning, you can almost see like a running, it almost looks like a sewing stitch, like a running stitch through that. So it's really beautiful way to show off some yarn. And you can wear it this way too. It looks smoother and flatter, or this side that's more textured. So just keep working rows 3 and 4, 3 and 4 over and over and over again until your shawl is as large as you would like it to be, or until you run out of yarn, whatever happens first, or however large you want it to be. So let's keep working, and when we return in a few minutes, we're going to see our shawl in its entirety and do some finish work. All right, just working that very last stitch in the very last row, and I don't really have enough yarn to continue, just what I have here. So what we're going to do is finish our wrap. So I'm going to wrap the yarn around the hook, bring it through the loop all the way through. And now all we have to do is just weave in some ends. So I just wanted to show you how pretty this looks with these fun textured ridges, and really the back looks pretty too. You could wear it for, you know, 2 different looks. But you should have a few ends. So let's weave some of those in together. So I'm just going to grab my tapestry needle and my scissors now, and I'm going to tackle this first one here. So if you need to, give it a little twist, thread your tapestry needle, and then because we have multiple colors here, you want to just stay kind of in the same color area with your tails. So we're going to go in one direction here with our tail, and then pull it through, and then bring it back in the other direction to kind of lock it into place. Okay, and then you can give it a little snip with your scissors, and then just repeat for the rest of your tails. We have a couple here, so when we do this blue one, we want to kind of stay in the blue area and so forth. So I'm going to go ahead and weave in the rest of my ends. So our ends are woven in and everything just looks beautiful. So that is how you crochet the snow cone wrap. Thanks so much for watching, and be sure and click the subscribe button to get all the latest Fiberflux video updates. Thanks again.